Oh, hi there. Today we're gonna talk about education. So, as I've already mentioned in the introduction of this stream, today we're gonna talk about education. Since I was really focused in reading a book called, I don't know. No, I'm just joking. Today we're going to talk about the education about the topic education for your English A-level exam. So at first we're gonna have a look at the topic of education, basically an overview of the topic. What you have to know in order to successfully successfully pass the A-levels. Then we're going to talk about the education system here in Austria. Then we're going to compare the education in the past and education nowadays. What has changed? Then we're going to touch upon the topic of alternative schools. And then, as always, I'm going to show you a demonstration exam about the topic education. In this case, the exam is about schools of the past, present, and the future. So, without further ado, I want to jump right into the overview of the topic education. So basically, the things you have to know about education can be found. So the basic topics can be found in the book called Englisch für die Berufsreifeprüfung, Hauptmodul. Basically, you can find it in the table of contents, what you have to know. And the topic is called Learning and Education. So it starts off with the UK educational system. There is primary, secondary, and further education. Then it touches upon the topic of the US education system. Then what makes a good teacher and free schools and alternative projects, Montessori, etc. So, and of course, what you have to know is all about the Austrian school system. But if you have questions, what you should learn or should know, I think it's best to ask your teacher, since they should have given you some sort of handout, what you really have to know. And of course, the Austrian school system is a big part of it, since we're in Austria. And knowing if you have a general idea of the educational system in Austria and what has happened until now concerning governmental experiments, let's call them, and other things that went wrong. It's best to inform yourself on the internet. There are many articles and that help you to acquire some additional knowledge about the education system in Austria. So now we're gonna talk about this very education system of Austria. And it all starts with kindergarten, actually. So kindergarten is from the age of 3 till the age of 6. Then there is some kind of opportunity you can, or parents can take for their children, which is called preschool. Of course, you all know that. which is from the age of 5. So, and the most important part of the educational system in Austria starts with the compulsory years, compulsory 9 years, from the age of 6 till the age of 15, if the student passes all classes, of course. So the first 4 years are basically primary schools, are called Volksschule or Grundschule. And these are for every child. Those school types are the same. But after they graduated from primary schools, from a primary school, then they can choose to either attend a junior high school or a secondary school, also called grammar school. The junior high school is now called Mittelschule or Neue Mittelschule, I guess. Maria is an expert on it. No. And yeah, and the other, of course, secondary school is gymnasium, but it's still the lower grade of gymnasium, not gymnasium, gymnasium, and it's the lower grade of the secondary school. So the first 4 years, basically. Yes, having completed those 4 years, the students have again to decide or need to decide to either do the 9th year of school in a so-called polytechnical school, Polytechnische Schule, or in other types of school. Other types of school, for example, are the grammar school I've mentioned, gymnasium, or other school types that last 5 years in comparison to the grammar school, which lasts only 4 years in the secondary grade. And yeah, basically those two school types, so the grammar schools and the other secondary schools, basically have a graduation with A levels or Matura. And of course, after you finished your 9 years, your compulsory 9 years of school, you can also decide to make an apprenticeship as a mechanic, for example, or an office clerk or something. Normally they last 3 to 4 years, and yes, then you're allowed to work as a mechanic or any other job you've acquired or decided to make an apprenticeship in. Yes, kind of lost the side now. Yeah, and of course, as we have all done some further education, you can also decide upon going to university after you graduated from grammar school or any other secondary school. Or you can go to an FH, it's called in Austria, so that's a Fachhochschule. That's some kind similar to university, but the degrees are not the same. If you want to know a more detailed, want to know more details about those different types of further education, you can look it up on the internet. In Innsbruck, there is, of course, the University of Innsbruck and the MCI in Innsbruck, which is the Fachhochschule. Yes, that's all about the education system in Austria. I wanted to tell you. If you know anything I've forgotten or anything you want to mention, comment in the comment section below this video and we will answer your question or talk about your concerns as soon as possible. So now we're going to talk about the past and the present of the education system in Austria, or in general, but I kind of tried to focus of past education and modern education in Austria. And what I've come up with was that past education was really focused, or the education system was focused only on the pupils' output, so there wasn't that much things going on that concerned how pupils learn differently or any other things. So I've also listed antiquated teaching methods, which I found really funny because nowadays, of course, there are some teachers that have antiquated teaching methods, and it depends on how it's very subjective to label them antiquated teaching methods, but in my opinion, those are the teaching methods that involved only teachers that were concerned or that taught people in front of the class and only, for example, taught grammar and vocabulary in English. So very dull and monotonous, I think. Not very lively, actually. And basically what goes hand in hand with antiquated teaching methods is that the teacher was the one who had a say, or had the say. So it was a really hierarchical construct. And nowadays it should be better, but of course some schools are trying, some schools are not trying. Our government is trying, but they don't have any clue about it since they haven't been to, they don't know how to teach, or they have never been in front of a school class, so yeah, so what? But what I've outlined here is that schools try to generally be more open about pupils' individual skills, so to try to focus on their individual needs and what they want to learn and what they are good in, and support them in what they're and where their strengths lie. So that's a very, I think, theoretical and utopias utopias scenario, but we hope that in future it could be like this. And what school nowadays offers is the focus on real life situations, especially when we talk about a foreign language teaching or something like this. Teachers try to use phrases or vocabulary that you need in real life. So there is actually, it doesn't make any sense if pupils are taught vocabulary they won't need or will seldomly need. So why not teach them things they really need and teach them phrases? Try to teach them all about communication, how they can communicate. And of course, since in my case, as an English teacher, English serves as a lingua franca nowadays, and if one is not able to communicate properly in English, there won't be a maybe there will be a possibility, but it will be quite hard for some to to communicate with people that can't speak German but can only speak English. Yes, we all know about this, and of course, important thing nowadays is digital education. There's YouTube, there are Skype lessons, there are apps that help you revise your vocabulary, that help you revise phrases or grammar. There are flashcard apps and a lot of digital things that help you to acquire your subject or help you revise for a test, or any other things actually you can find in the App Store or online. And some schools already attempt to use open architecture or use a more open arrangement of chairs and desks in the classrooms, so that the learning environment is way more different than 20 years ago. So open architecture and a more open arrangement of chairs and desks will help or will actually benefit to the learning experience of the pupils. And learning environment, of course, if the learning environment is for example, very relaxed, or the pupils can really feel comfortable, then they're gonna learn way more efficiently. So, okay, so at the beginning we already talked about, or I mentioned, one alternative school, which is the Montessori school. It's a very open form of school, as is the Waldorf school here in Austria. So there are no grades, basically. There is individual support for every student or every pupil. And basically, students can also decide what they want to learn and how they want to learn, which is also kind of the goal of the free schools, which have different educational approaches. Sometimes they use Montessori approaches or any other approaches to realize a different form of school. Yes, so they have similar objectives as Montessori and Waldorf, but just in a different way, actually. And now we're gonna have a look at the demonstration exam. In this case, this demonstration exam is all about schools of the past, present and future. We all know about introduction, So we won't touch upon this topic. But now, the first task in this exam was, for example, modern education system, was about the modern education system. In this case, you are an advisor working at the Ministry of Education in Austria. You have been asked to hold a presentation in front of an international audience at a conference about modern education systems. Pardon me. Education makes me... No. Give a brief introductory talk to your colleagues about the Austrian education system. What you should talk about in this exam, or in this example, is an overview of this Austrian education system, how education has changed over time, and the future of education in Austria. So, I think that's very clear here. The monologue is now 4 minutes. We all know that that's a bit older exam. After you completed the monologue, you will move on to the dialogue with your examiner. In this case, it's all about free schools and alternative schools. Yay! After your talk, you open the discussion up to questions about the free schools and alternative schools, their benefits and their drawbacks. Use the information from the attached text, as well as your own ideas. So, important, use the article and your own ideas. So, if you have strong knowledge about, in this case, free schools and alternative schools, their benefits and drawbacks, you're good to go. Since the knowledge from the article you just summarize, and yeah, then you're set to go, and I think that won't be a problem for you then. As always, the follow-up discussion is only concerned about the topic education in this case. So it's a very general question. And if you have questions about it, of course, let us know. If you want to know how such an, didn't want to do that, so how such a demonstration exam looks like, or how the examiner asks questions, how the questions are asked basically, you can look it up in one of our streams about different topics of demonstration exams. We do them regularly. And yeah, I think that was it for today. Do we have any questions?
No, unfortunately not. No.
No question. Okay. So, in this case, I want to wish you a very pleasant evening. We will see each other on Monday, I think.